This is my case study for Module 6, Internet Use Violations, Threats over the World Wide Web. Category 1, Problem Identification and Analysis. What do I know? I know that Dr. Stephen Forbes is the principal of Roosevelt High School. I know that Roosevelt High School is a prestigious school in an affluent area, and I know that he has been the principal there for 9 years. He is very established and well respected, and 2 years ago he received the honor of State Principal of the Year. I know that Dr. Forbes hires highly qualified teachers to fill staff positions in his school. I know that Miss Walker is a specialized science teacher hired by Dr. Forbes, who teaches classes such as zoology, botany, and genetics. I know that Miss Walker is a well-educated teacher. She completed her undergraduate, master's degree, and 1 additional year postgraduate prior to coming to teach at Roosevelt High School. I know that she has a very structured classroom focused on a high level of academic rigor. I know that she has a serious approach to instruction, which creates a high level of stress in the classroom. I know that Ms. Walker received an email that directed her to view a specific website for a personal message. I know that she went to this website and viewed the personal message, and the message contained highly suggestive comments about her personal behaviors and critical comments about the rigor of her classes. I know that the message used vulgar curse words, and I know that the final comment on the web page was, "Who wants Ms. Walker to disappear?" I know Ms. Walker felt threatened by the contents of the email, and she immediately called Dr. Forbes. I know the URL web page was forwarded to Dr. Forbes, and he viewed it. I know that Dr. Forbes believes that this web page is a prank, and I know that Dr. Forbes printed hard copies of both the email and the web page. So what do I need to know? Well, I need to know who sent the email. I need to know where the web page originated from. I need to know, was the email and the web page a prank or a real threat? And did they intend to do physical harm to Ms. Walker, whoever did that? I need to know if the safety of the students is at risk, and I need to know what the school policy states regarding internet threats. I need to know why Ms. Walker has not implemented suggestions made by Dr. Forbes to utilize different techniques to reduce stress and increase positive interactions with students. I need to know how the students' and parents' complaints about Ms. Walker's instruction and class rigor have been addressed up to this point, and I need to know what the school policy student handbook states about threats in the school. So the problem that I have identified is malicious behavior. So actions of defamation and libel have been made against Ms. Walker. Category 2, my proposed plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. My plan of action. First, remain calm and gather all the facts. Second, print hard copies of all the evidence, so the email and the web page. So with anything that is online, it can be taken down or disabled at any point, and so this step must be taken so we have evidence of what has happened, so it's not one person's word against another. Third, I would involve, or at minimum, I would notify the district superintendent so he knows what is going on, and legal counsel that represents the school or district. They may not be immediately involved at this point, but they need to have an idea of what's going on and aware of the situation so that they are able to advise Dr. Forbes. Next, to ensure the safety of all students by notifying the school resource officer or the local police to follow specific school-wide policies to ensure student safety if the threat is indeed real. And then there needs to be a meeting with Dr. Forbes and Ms. Walker. If legal counsel or the school resource officer needs to be present, then they should also be in attendance at this meeting. During this meeting, Dr. Forbes should reassure Ms. Walker that he will take all the necessary steps to ensure her safety. Next, I would question students from Ms. Walker's class. I would interview different students, not only the students that Ms. Walker suspects, but a wide variety of students to not discriminate and to be fair. And last, I would consider providing additional security for Ms. Walker during school until the issue is resolved. And so, for example, Dr. Forbes or the school resource officer could walk her to and from her car to help her feel more safe. Or a sub could be hired or have another teacher sit in on her classes to have another adult in the room. Category 3, resolve issues based on promoting the success of all students. So the resolution of the issues while promoting the success of all students can be done in the following ways. If the technology department was able to trace the email and or the web page, this should help us to narrow down the students to interview. And all school assembly needs to be held in which Dr. Forbes, possibly along with the resource officer, will address the entire student body. The topics that need to be covered in this assembly are reinforcement of the academic and behavior expectations of Roosevelt High School, and so to portray and remind the students of the expectations of a very prestigious school. Also, to review the student handbook or district policies of threats and the proper grievance policy. So if a student or a parent does have a grievance or a complaint against a teacher or staff member, that they report to the proper authorities or they take the proper steps necessary. After questioning the students and evaluating the findings of the technology department, we would hope to have found out who is responsible. Now, the issue cannot be completely resolved without establishing some sort of plan for Miss Walker's method of instruction and classroom management. She should continue to work closely with Dr. Forbes or the building administration or another accomplished teacher with a high academic rigor to serve as a mentor or consultant and to develop a plan to improve her instruction techniques and classroom environment. So, debriefing the problem and reflection. So what was I thinking during this process? I was thinking that Miss Walker may be highly qualified, but she lacks experience and she's unteachable. She has a lot of education. She's a very well-educated teacher. However, she lacked the real life classroom experience when she came to Roosevelt High School, so that could be considered maybe a disadvantage. So that's kind of one thing I was thinking. And I was thinking that she was unteachable. And I was thinking she was unteachable because it stated in the study that Dr. Forbes had suggested techniques to her and she had not taken them. And so to me, that's unteachable. I was also thinking, I was wondering why she had not taken his advice to implement strategies to help reduce stress levels in her classes. So just wondering, continuing to wonder why she didn't take advice when she'd been given it. And obviously there were complaints. I was also thinking that this is a very real scenario. It seems with the digital age, threats seem to happen more frequently because I think people can hide behind a screen, and so it can be scary for the individual as well as a threat to all students. So it needs to be taken very seriously. Miss Walker truly believed somebody wanted her dead, so she was very, very scared and felt very threatened by the situation, and it's important to remember that malice and libel are very real and serious issues. What was I feeling? I was feeling that action should definitely be taken immediately, but not rashly. And so taking the time to find out all the facts, but we need to act quickly. I was feeling there's a definite need to ensure the safety of Miss Walker and all students. And I was also feeling sad about the situation, that somebody would be intentional, hurtful, harmful, and cruel. What was I valuing? I was valuing the safety and success of all the students. As a building administrator, that's extremely important, and that's one of our roles. And I was valuing my character as an administrator. My character is going to come into play a lot when handling this situation, and so I was valuing my character and integrity. I was also valuing the reputation of the school. To be an administrator at a very prestigious school is a very important thing, and we want to maintain that level. And so I was also valuing the reputation of the school and wanting to protect that and maintain that during the process. So Dr. Forbes has described a well-respected reputation. His reaction to Mrs. Walker to cast the threat off as a prank was unprofessional. So his initial response of, I think it's just a prank, I think he intended to just reassure her and calm her down. But I did feel that was somewhat unprofessional for him to just immediately say that and not say, well, let's find out all the facts, investigate, but to simply say it was a prank, I didn't necessarily think that was professional. And he was more than likely, like I said, trying to calm her down, but a serious situation should never be disregarded. The unresolved issue in the entire situation scenario is that Miss Walker's instruction techniques and classroom management. That's where the underlying issue stemmed from. So despite what's discovered, this problem must still be addressed so that something like this does not happen again. So reviewing Standard 5. I believe that a sense of integrity and ethical behavior was demonstrated by remaining calm in this situation and not acting rashly. I believe it was demonstrated by notifying legal counsel, the school resource officer, and the district technologist. I think that those were all steps of integrity and ethical behavior, and collecting the evidence. It's important that we maintain our integrity and ethical behavior, obtaining all the evidence possible. So when we printed the hard copies of the email and the web page, I think people were treated fairly equitably and with dignity and respect by interviewing a wide range of students for Miss Walker's classes and not simply only interviewing the ones that were suspected, because we can't make any assumptions, and that leads to number 2. No assumptions were made or accusations. So during even the interview process of the students, there were still no accusations being made. And also by listening to Ms. Walker and developing a plan of action to investigate, I feel showed her dignity and respect for the situation. I think a personal and professional code of ethics was demonstrated by meeting with the student body and reinforcing expectations of the school. That shows the professional code of ethics and the personal code of ethics, and the passion and drive for the school expectations. And suggestions to reduce the student stress and increase the positive student interaction, I believe instills that personal code of ethics. And to ensure staff consists of highly qualified teachers. I think that's another way that we can look at our code of ethics and personal and professional and want that to be of the utmost quality possible. So in conclusion, along with Standard 5, which was focused on throughout this case study, I also believe that Standard 3C, to promote and protect the welfare and safety of the students and staff, is demonstrated in this case. Obviously, we want to make sure that all students are safe, and that we want to promote the welfare of the school, the students, and the staff. I also think that Standard 2A is demonstrated, and to nurture and sustain a culture of collaboration, trust, learning, and high expectations. So that is my conclusion to my case study. Thanks for watching.